Hey, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I'm currently in Tanzania. As you can see, it is so beautiful here. I'm here actually waiting for my group trip to start. Group trip number 3, no, group trip number 2, Nesufu Travels, starts in a couple of days. So I thought I would just film a couple YouTube videos beforehand. I probably won't be able to vlog. The birds are birding. I probably won't be able to vlog this trip just because I have to take content on my phone for people as well as myself for my business and everything. So I'll try and do a recap maybe at some point on YouTube. But if not, make sure to follow me on Instagram and you'll see all the live updates day by day. Look, too sweaty. It's hot. Let's try and make this video quick. Oh, and there's a tropical wasp. Hey, welcome back to my channel. So I'm Nessa and I really want to start making more sit down videos that are travel related and just talking about my travels or providing travel tips and general travel content. I had it in my mind for a while to do a video about everywhere that I've lived, just because sometimes when I mention on like my Instagram or TikTok, oh yeah, when I lived here, people are like, you lived here, you lived there, what was it like, how was this, what was this like? And I was like, let me try and do a quickish video because you know I love to talk. So I've lived in 5 different countries and I'm just gonna like rate them. I think that might just be the easiest, quickest way. I've lived in the UK, which is where I was born and raised, so I'm not sure if I'm going to include that in the list. I lived in Brazil kind of ish. It wasn't like long term, but it was a good few months. And I've lived in Spain, the Netherlands or Holland, Colombia, and also now the United States. So I've lived in 6 different countries, one of them being where I grew up. Let's rank them least favorite to most favorite. So starting with the least favorite, I'm gonna say Los Estados Unidos. Sorry, no wait, no, you know what? I was gonna put America last, but I actually think Spain would probably be last. So Spain is an amazing country, it's beautiful. Spain was actually the first country I ever went to when I traveled. When I got my passport, just after I turned 18, I worked so hard to save for the trip. I went with my best friend at the time, and we went to Barcelona. And it was incredible. I had such a good time. I actually even met like my ex-boyfriend there, so it was great. Visiting Spain is not the same as living there, and as well, a lot of people, the places that you will visit in Spain isn't real Spain in terms of how Spanish people think and live and act in small cities is not the same as Barcelona, Madrid, Valencia, places in the south, like even Menorca. All of them places have lots of culture, but it's not the Spain I lived in with less than 200,000 people in the town. So I lived in a place called Santander, and it's northern Spain and it's beautiful. You can like ski in the winter and it has a beach in the summer. Very gorgeous, and I taught English there. And I'll go into another day about how I've lived in all of these countries and worked in them or studied in them. But I was in Spain for a year and I was teaching English in a local school with kids, and the kids were great, but the people, I've just never experienced such in-my-face racism as I have in Spain. And I know some people, when they travel just for leisure to different cities in Spain, they also experience racism. But on my individual trips to Spain, I've never experienced that. I've always felt welcome and happy, apart from maybe the odd time, you know, in Barcelona, where on La Rambla, because there's a lot of African, particularly Nigerian prostitutes, a lot of people might think that you as a tourist is one of them, which is obviously not the best feeling. But apart from that, I've had a great experience, and I've been to Barcelona 3 times. I've been to Spain nearly as much as I've been to any other country, honestly, in the world. And it's really common in the UK, if you're British, to go to Spain. Like, that's just what we do, like kind of the same way that Americans go to Mexico when they're young, Brits go to Spain type of thing. Anyway, so I just experienced like a lot of direct racism, a lot of discrimination. I remember once I was sitting on the bus after working all day teaching these white Spanish kids. An older Spanish lady, I sat next to her, and she got up, and she was very old, like couldn't walk very well. She got up and stood, even though she just lost the only free seat. And so I think it was maybe her grandson or someone was like, why don't you sit down? And you know, I speak Spanish. I was learning Spanish when I was there, and now from other places I've lived, I speak it like pretty almost fluently. And you know, I heard her say like, oh, I don't want to sit next to the black woman. You know, I was just like, oh wow. And then just so many incidents of going into restaurants, not being served. I would say obviously that wasn't a day-to-day reality. Most of the time people were great, but that was just my experience. I lived in a very small town. It wasn't the same. They didn't have a lot of diversity. You know, they had like quite a few Latinos, but you know, European Spanish people, how they treat white Latinos is deplorable. So a dark-skinned African woman, even though when they find out that I was British, they'd be like, oh, okay, you know, she's different, you know, she's not here as an immigrant, you know, she's in the European Union, you know, she has a British passport. At the time, we're in the European Union. Yeah, so I'd say Spain would be last for that reason, just because I felt the most uncomfortable. And whilst I was teaching there, I actually wanted to quit my teaching job. I hope that the noise over there on the beach isn't too noisy. Spain would be last. It's still a beautiful country. I just wouldn't want to live there again. And if I maybe would recommend someone living there, I would say to live in the south, which is, you know, just a more of a relaxed, more open, more multicultural community. I'm not saying you wouldn't experience racism in the south of Spain. I've just known that black people tend to feel happier there, or even just in Barcelona. Next, I would say my least favorite after Spain, going up the ladder, the United States. I knew before moving there that it wouldn't be the best country to live in. You know, a lot of my American friends had told me about it. Obviously, I'm on social media. I've grown up consuming American culture, film, television, everything from a young age. So I've always been aware of, you know, just how they treat people, how backwards it can be. And I think a phrase that some of my American friends have said to me so many times sums up America. America is a third world country in a Gucci belt. And they know that, so like, huh? But it is so much of the idea of freedom and democracy there is a facade. A lot of people are living in a way that to me isn't representative of a modern Western democracy and civilization. You know, it's very behind in so many ways. And I particularly lived in Houston, Texas, and I moved to the States because I wanted to do my master's degree, and I got a scholarship, and I was like, I want to move to a city that has a large population of black people so that, you know, I have a good time and I feel like I'm not experiencing the part of America that scares me. Let's be real, the really racist part. And Houston has definitely given me that, but it's shown me, you know, especially I'm in the South, as someone who grew up in Europe. I've experienced racism my whole life, everywhere. And I will say I've never actually experienced racism in Houston, but it's the guns, the crime, the killings, even if you live in a nice neighborhood. It's the kind of backwardness in the States overall with like their financial system, the banking system. Capitalism is strong there. I've never understood like paying for some things that in other countries are either free or very cheap. That's been interesting. And yeah, I just say as well the overall ignorance of people. A lot of my closest friends in the States, and my best friend is American even before I lived in the States, but who are well traveled and or just more open-minded, they, you know, will always say to me like they know that Americans don't have the best reputation. So I just say in that sense, I think living in the States hasn't been the best experience, but it also hasn't been the worst. I still live there. I'm going back there in January after my little 5-month hiatus. I don't intend to live there forever, definitely not, but I feel like, you know, there's a lot more similarities in the States and the UK than people think, but America definitely is extreme. But yeah, maybe I'll do another video about life as a Brit in America, because it is funny. There's a lot of funny things that happen, and it's also sad, but mainly funny. Where would I want next on my list? Because this is hard, because now all the countries after this I liked. Next, the Netherlands or Holland. I spent a lot of time in because my ex was from there, and then I ended up, because I was with my ex, I decided to do a semester abroad there. So I kind of lived there for 5 years through my ex, because I spent like summers there for like months. I would go there at least once a month. And then I actually did a semester abroad. I did like the Erasmus exchange, which is so sad to know now that because of Brexit, the Erasmus exchange isn't like as easy, or I don't think it's going to be free anymore. I don't know, but that was an era where you could just go all over Europe. And so my study abroad experience in Holland was amazing. I was in Maastricht, said it in the proper Dutch way. It's in the south of Holland, so about 3 hours from Amsterdam. Because like prior to that, I'd spent so much time in the Netherlands. I like settled so easily, and it was great. I had a lot of travel opportunities because it's right near the border of Belgium and Germany, and obviously you can get like trains or planes to just anywhere. I was living in this huge accommodation and there were like 20 people on each floor, and you know, I'd say my experience living there as a student studying was different to my experience living there with my ex, just because with my ex I was like getting into everyday life, you know, like couple life, going grocery shopping, going out with friends, doing stuff like that. Whereas when I was there as a student, it was very much like making friends from all over the world, international, studying, partying, that type of stuff. And so both were great. I love it. Europe is just not for me in terms of somewhere I want to live long term, so I'd say that's probably why it's like third on the list. The UK. So UK is where I was born and raised. I love the UK. A lot of people think I hate it because I'm not really ever there and I haven't lived there, I'd say, like for a big part of my 20s. But I'll never lose my accent because, you know, I love having a British accent. Proud as you can be British. You know, I'm proud of the good things, not the bad things. Obviously my heritage is Nigerian. I'm a Niger gal. And so I always say to people I'm British Nigerian. I'm not just British, I'm British Nigerian. You know, like ethnically British people don't look like this. You know, they got all this melanin. I love the UK, I love London particularly. I didn't grow up in London, I actually was born in London, then moved to a place called Essex, a small town in Essex, was raised there with my foster parents, and then I lived back in London after. I feel like London was always more my home than Essex, just because I know London really well, especially like East London and Central London. I think one of the best cities in the world, in the Western world. I just always knew growing up that I wouldn't want to live in the UK or in London my whole life. It was just, everybody knew. From the moment I caught that travel bug at 18, Nessa's gonna go. Nessa's not gonna live here. You know, my mum always said that. She always knew. And I've definitely made those dreams of living in different countries come true. From as soon as I could, I took advantage of every opportunity in university or just in my summer times. I would work a lot of jobs to try and travel whilst I was living in the UK, and I just always saw myself living outside of it. I always say to people, the shit I talk about the United States is the same way I talk about the United Kingdom. Like, it's just, there's different issues, but then some of the issues are one in the same, you know? These are like former colonial, well, not even former, some of them current colonial countries. So, you know, I think as a children of immigrants, you can only be so proud to be from there. You know, my family is able to thrive in the UK. You know, been afforded so many opportunities because I have a British passport, because I'm British by nationality and I've grown up there. I was recently there, just like for the whole of November, which was really, really nice. Last two is between Colombia and Brazil. Oof. So we have Spain, United States, Netherlands, the UK. Last two. Gonna say Brazil, even though Brazil is my favorite trip I've ever done. It was also my first solo trip. I wasn't in Brazil for as long as Colombia. It was my first solo trip. It totally changed my perspective on traveling, solo traveling, the world, how we view different cultures, how the media tells us some things that aren't necessarily the full reality. And it just gave me just everything I needed as a solo black traveler, particularly a woman. I didn't know that in Brazil loads of people look like me, you know. And it just was a breath of fresh air. I was only there for 3 months. I volunteered whilst I was there. I was volunteering in a favela. I stayed in a favela for a while through people I met there. Just so amazing. I love Brazil. I went to Brazil in 2014. I've set my goal that before I hit 10 years, crazy, 10 years will be in 2 years, I will go back. So I'm hoping to go back next year. And to see more cities, because I was only in Rio when I was there. I was very broke when I was there. I hadn't even started university yet. The last place, que es siempre en mi corazón, the last place that's always in my heart, Colombia. Remember guys, you know, my local friends always used to say this, Colombia is C-O-L-O-M-B-I-A, not C-O-L-U-M-B-I-A. Colombia with a U is the place, university, all of that in the United States. Oh, these birds are birding. Chirp, chirp. Anyway, I hope you can hear me. Colombia, oh. I just love that country so much, like literally. And I did a group trip there at the beginning of this year in January to Cartagena, and I definitely want to take people back there. I actually would love to just continuously run that trip every year. I just love that country. But when I lived in Colombia, I lived in Medellin, and I had wanted to live there for so long. I'd never visited, but I was like, I'm gonna live there one day. And when I finished, when I graduated university, I didn't move instantly because, you know, being stupid, waiting for a man, and blah blah blah, and then not even being with him anymore. Maybe I should make a video on why you shouldn't wait for people to do the things you want to do in life, because you might regret it later. But I got to go in the end. I'm so happy I got to go, and it was great, and I love it there. And I always say to people, I would have not left Colombia if it wasn't for the pandemic. If it wasn't for the pandemic, I would still be in Colombia. So I went in August 2019, and I was hired there with a local NGO just to help them with their policy department and to kind of help modernize and help with the translation of their department. But I got to work from home most of the time there, even before the pandemic. That was my first time working from home. I also worked English online part-time just to make a little bit more money. Spent the whole time traveling around Colombia. I didn't leave the country, apart from once when I went to the United States for like a weekend, there for just probably less than a year. And then the pandemic started, and I was just like, I just have to go, you know. I knew that the lockdown was going to get bad there, and in the end they had one of the longest lockdowns in the world. It was like military police patrolling the streets, different neighborhoods had different times when they could go to the supermarket. I just knew it wasn't going to be the Colombia that I wanted. I foresaw that, so I was like, I should go, man. But I love that country. Medellin is just an amazing city, and I know most people go to Cartagena when they go, or Bogota, but there's so many beautiful places on the coast, like Santa Marta, the region Choco, which has a large amount of Afro-Colombians, Cali. It's so underrated for tourism outside of Cartagena, because it's insane the sort of like accommodations that they have built and developed there. Cost of living there, obviously it's low. I know it's still a low income economy that's still developing, and I'd love to actually build there and develop there with local people, and you know, just even give my back or as much as I can to the local community. I love that country. I don't like how they treat the Black Colombians, the Afro-Colombians, because again, being there, people thought I was a local with my skin color, and again, that's something we don't see enough in the media, Black Colombians. And then also how they're treated is, you know, the same way as Black people are treated in a lot of countries around the world, like where white people are the majority. It's just crazy. But considering that in Brazil and Colombia, Black people are a large percentage, not no 20-30%, like almost 50. I think in Colombia even 55, in Brazil they're 55% like African descent people. That I didn't like about Colombia, but that is the reality. But I love Colombia so much. I've started to feel like I just need to move back there and build my life there. I didn't like dating there though, so that's the only thing. I'm like, am I really going to settle down there, like love-wise, and have kids there? But I would live there 100%. Like, I love the country so much. I love the people. The food was okay on the south. It was on the north coast, because it's the Caribbean coast. It was better. You know, I like seafood. But in the mainland, Medellin is landlocked, so it's mainly like meat and stuff. But it was cheap, so I was eating beautiful fresh fruit and veg every day, eating good. And I was just happy there. And I always say it was actually the last time I was happy before my mum passed away. And since then, I feel like I've just been longing to get back to that kind of sense of happiness that I had back then. And I definitely think this 5-month break I've been on has been helping me get back that feeling back, you know. I think I just love Latin American countries in general. I love speaking Spanish. Colombia was the country where I really got my Spanish to a good level, because the English level in Medellin particularly not that high, which was great for me. You know, I worked in Spanish, I was making friends in Spanish. It was amazing. And there's also a really big Black expat community, people from like the UK, America, France there. So I've had a lot of English speaking friends and Spanish speaking friends. That is my list. So I hope you liked this video. Let me know below if there's any other videos you'd like me to share or talk about, any other topics. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you will subscribe, like, share. Follow me on Instagram, Nesufu, TikTok, nesufutravels, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.